All right, looking forward to this one. We have a clip that was sent to us by none other than Alex Jones, where he illustrates how the system attempts to control us with simple diversionary tactics. He's titled this piece, How Media Distractions Work. French Bulldog investigates.
Who is that? Who is that? Is that Sparky, who just got a little piece of turkey? Ladies and gentlemen, here's what the mainstream media does with WMDs in Iraq and the Trayvon Martin story. All of it. It gets us chasing our tails. That is what it does. Over and over and over again. Meanwhile, the New World Order just sits back, manipulating humanity for the light show. That's basically the Matrix. And that's how this New World Order system operates. So my question to you is, are we sophisticated enough to learn about these different techniques that are used to control us and play us off against each other? Do we see what Madison Avenue is doing? Do we see the messages that are in the sitcoms and dramas and in the culture that are designed to make us a bunch of servile jellyfish so that the establishment can control human destiny? And by the way, the establishment is not taking humans in a very nice direction, are they? No, because they themselves are drinking the Kool-Aid. Look at this little French Bulldog. He sees the laser. It's about 4 months old. And he, of course, is part terrier. That's what Frenchies are. And it's a ratter. They love to chase rats. Back in the castles or houses, they would have these instead of cats to get the mice. And so he's having fun. But the point is that the globalists give us football, NFL, for our tribal, male bonding, to think of that as our tribes and what we fight for, not for liberty, not for freedom. And there's just so many other examples of how there's these empty things that aren't really real. The system uses to distract us. And while we're looking down with blinders on, the real world is going on all around us. Sparky, come here. I'm Alex Jones, reporting for Infowars.com, getting people to think outside the box and realize you don't have to believe what I believe. Just start thinking for yourself, because there is more to reality. There are different agendas out there.
All right, and now we're going to take you to a local piece that was inspired by a man whose troubles began when he decided to clear some trees and brush infested with rats and snakes in his very own backyard. Apparently, he was unaware of the totalitarian intent that was lurking on the other side. The city of Austin, Texas, has installed motion-detecting surveillance cameras along the property lines of people's backyards in western Travis County.
There ought to be a way eventually where those cameras can be oriented away from the homes. If they want to watch for any movement or any trespass out there, they have a right to do that.
And if the surveillance cameras weren't intrusive enough, the city has also installed these prison-style fences along the property lines.
They put this prison fence up and have cameras pointed at you, and only you. In fact, one home just a couple down cleared all the cedar trees, planted grass, and mows the area, trespassing regularly out there to keep that area mowed. It doesn't make it, and yet they didn't put a fence up there. They didn't put any cameras in.
These unfortunate residents are neighbors to an encroaching vacuum of government land grabbing, all tied to the precautionary principle of the UN's Agenda 21.
I was the county judge of Travis County when the Balcones Canyonlands Conservation Plan and the permit under the Endangered Species Act was applied for. This wasn't long after I took office in 1987. it was announced that the territory, nesting areas for the golden cheek warbler and the black-capped vireo covered a huge area of western Travis County. And in essence, what the U.S. Fish and Wildlife said was that to enforce the Endangered Species Act, that there could be no tree clearing, there could be no development activities, and anything that might cause noise during the breeding season, nesting season. It shut down any development in the western part of the county. A lot of public money, millions of dollars of public money that went into buying the preserves area from the landowners. The Nature Conservancy and others got private money in there and helped leverage purchases. Some property owners just sold conservation rights. They were able to stay there. They don't develop it, but they got paid to conserve their area. If they don't do a good job of managing the preserves and protecting them from fire, every bit of the money that was invested in public and private funds for these preserve systems is wasted. I don't think our elected officials are paying much attention to this. And instead, they're overreacting with this kind of bull, hurting adjacent homeowners for doing things that frankly should have been done by the government itself. They should have cleared those trees away from the neighborhoods and done a better job of managing the preserves so they help the species. So we got the worst of both worlds going on right now. But if you're considering buying a home next door and you see there's cameras out there spying on the backyard and this ugly fence next door, you're not as interested in buying that home next door.
The precautionary principle states that if an action or policy has a suspected risk of causing harm to the public or to the environment, in the absence of scientific consensus that the action or policy is harmful, the burden of proof that is not harmful falls on those taking the action. Basically, guilty before proven innocent. The European Union deems this principle an actual law, while the United States has labeled it a precautionary approach and uses it to create policy. The genesis of Agenda 21 begins with the Brundtland Commission's Our Common Future, reported to the United Nations in 1987. This report defined the term sustainable development, stated as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. In order to define what these needs of the present are and what to implement in order to scale down daily aspects of human activity, Maurice Strong developed Agenda 21 and presented it at the Rio Earth Summit in 1992.
Climate change affects the very future of life on Earth. We have to remember that life as we know it on Earth has only existed for a very small portion of the Earth's history, and within very narrow parameters. And we are changing those parameters. So life is actually in danger.
The 4 sections of 40 chapters of Agenda 21 leave no stone unturned when it comes to absolute control of humanity. It places nature above mankind and calls for an end to national sovereignty, the abolition of private property, the restructuring of the family, and restrictions on transportation and individual opportunity. This map clearly shows the human settlement zones according to Agenda 21 planned for the near future. Red is off limits, yellow is highly regulated, and green is normal use. President Clinton issued Executive Order Number 12852, creating the President's Council on Sustainable Development. The PCSD has eroded the foundation of U.S. public policy, according to the Master Plan of the United Nations, ever since.
We are talking about a globalist plan that remakes your city to a specific model. This is not only in the United States, it's all across the United States and all across the world. And you'll see these plans. They are, they're called One Bay Area. They're called 4 States, One Vision. They often have the word vision in them, or they might be your city 2050 or your city 2035. They're planning out to 2050. This is the planning, what we're looking at is a planning revolution here. And it's a totalitarian plan that they're implementing. I want to let people know that totalitarian plans all share, every totalitarian plan, whether it was under Stalin or Hitler or Mao, they all share the same elements. And you will recognize it here in your country, wherever you live. You'll see that there's being a takeover and a total control of all land use, of your educational system, of means of production, all of your resources, okay? Also, you'll see it's all for the common good. It's all for the fatherland. It's all for the homeland. It's all for everyone's good, right? The individual will lose against this. You see the scarcity mentality. Oh, there's not enough. You have to restrict yourself. You have to conserve. Am I a pig? Do I want to use everything up? No, but we're talking about, this is a totalitarian design.
Well, this is about them controlling who they dole it out to. This is about them setting the standards, your light bulb, your toilet, your parking space, your roads, destroying your roads, and they admit to shut you down to make you poor so they can control you. They all brag about it.
And of course, the green totalitarian movement continues with Barack Obama. And I'm looking right here. It says that in 2010, Obama raised $250 million in order to brainwash school children with public-private partnership propaganda. We want to thank Mr. Alshire for his comments on his client's predicament. Mr. Alshire, like many of you out there, was unaware of the local domino effect that is related to Agenda 21. And that brings us to our quote of the day. We may get to the point where the only way of saving the world will be for industrial civilization to collapse. And that was globalist Maurice Strong.
Are we sophisticated enough to learn about these different techniques that are used to control us and play us off against each other? Do we see what Madison Avenue is doing? Do we see the messages that are in the sitcoms and dramas and in the culture that are designed to make us a bunch of servile jellyfish so that the establishment can control human destiny? And by the way, the establishment is not taking humans in a very nice direction, are they? No, because they themselves are drinking the Kool-Aid. Look at this little French Bulldog. He sees the laser. It's about 4 months old. And he, of course, is part terrier. That's what Frenchies are. And it's a ratter. They love to chase rats. Back in the castles or houses, they would. Meanwhile, the New World Order just sits back, manipulating humanity with a light show. That's basically the Matrix. And that's how this New World Order system operates. So my question to you is...
All right, looking forward to this one. We have a clip that was sent to us by none other than Alex Jones, where he illustrates how the system attempts to control us with simple diversionary tactics. He's titled this piece, How Media Distractions Work. French Bulldog investigates.
Who is that? Who is that? Is that Sparky, who just got a little piece of turkey? Ladies and gentlemen, here's what the mainstream media does with WMDs in Iraq and the Trayvon Martin story. All of it. It gets us chasing our tails. That is what it does. Over and over and over again.